Welcome to the Infill Podcast, where we interview the most interesting members of the 3D printing and maker communities, live and with audience participation. And now, here is your host, Jonathan Levy.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome. We have a great episode scheduled for you today for our video viewers. I just got a glimpse at what I look like, and I apologize. This is a live interview, as someone just asked in the chat. And the way you know is our guest just lost internet connection and dropped off. But before then, I'm going to give you some background and keep you all entertained. And here he comes, joining the room. So a few weeks ago, I did a video on the Positron Project, which if you haven't seen that video, make sure to check it out. It is a fully portable 3D printer that folds up into a filament box, or in my case, a carrying case. What I didn't realize at the time is that there is actually a team of people, not just one content creator, working on developing the business side of it, as well as Kralyn, who developed the printer, on the engineering side. And imagine my excitement when today's guest, which is none other than Anthony Dragone of the Positron Project, reached out and said, "Hey, I'm the general manager of Positron." So Anthony, there's actual real people behind the project. Thanks for joining the show today.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
I'm really excited. Should we tell the audience that you are an IT professional, and so if your internet cuts out, you've got it under control?
Yes. I made a quick change here to hopefully prevent that. It seems that there's a podcast haunting going on where whenever I join one, it just decides to, not want to work. So thanks, Comcast. I appreciate it.
Yep. So, okay, I have many questions. So I'm just going to get right into it because my curiosity is boundless, like Da Vinci. People are talking about in the chat Da Vinci. Fill us in on the background of the Positron Project for those who don't know. I think that's maybe a good starting point.
So the Positron Project was Kralyn's idea originally. So he was doing it as an engineering student at his university, just trying to, I think it was one of like his thesis or something like that. I don't know what his what's it called? I don't know what he was going there for, but I know it was engineering.
Okay.
It was just a student project he was working on with his friend Danning. So at the time, it was just him and Danning working on this machine, just trying to make something new and interesting, mainly for fun, and so he could have a printer that goes with him as he travels around. Cool. Anyone who's watched Kralyn before the Positron, he likes to tinker. He likes to experiment with different ideas. He worked on a battery bank before the Positron, so that you could kind of like DIY your own battery bank. So I kind of find out about the Positron just like everyone else did, where it was released and everyone's like, whoa, a printer that prints upside down and can fold? That's absolutely wild. And we were all enthralled.
Right. I'm pulling it up on the screen so people can see it as well.
From. Yeah.
It's pretty wild. Keep talking. I just want to give people visuals while you talk.
So I came onto the project shortly after about a year after the first videos were released. What happened was I was actually part of an Ender 3 community Discord server, and I was moderator there. Still tinker with some moderation there every once in a while, but I was there, and Kralyn entered our server and asked for assistance with his own. And so we kind of were like, hey, does anyone want to volunteer to help? And so I volunteered. As soon as we got in, a couple of us moderators entered, and we started realizing what Kralyn needed wasn't just a moderator. It was way bigger than that. He was about to release the original Positron 3.0 to, the GitHub and everything. And anyone who manages an open source project understands that you can't just leave the repo on the internet and just wish it good luck. There's a lot of maintenance that goes with it. So what we needed was essentially a small business manager. Now I have kind of managed my own for a while, so I offered my services, and as a result, I became the lead manager of Positron.
Amazing. That's really cool. Okay, I have many other questions, but I think it's important to cover. So that was what year?
I want to say that was about 2 years ago, so 2022.
Okay.
Yeah, 2022, 2023 is when kind of all that started kicking off.
Okay. And someone mentioned in the chat, so I think just to complete the story, it's good to bring this question up. Quote, I thought Kralyn pieced out and vanished. But there's actually
Yes.
a much more interesting truth to what happened. So he kind of brings people on the team for this really cool project. And then what happened?
So he brought me onto the team, and this project is getting obviously a lot of attention from a
Yeah.
lot of creators, a lot of people, but also a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
So the first thing that we do before anything happens is we transfer all the assets to Positron3D as its own independent thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just like owned by Kralyn, it's owned by Positron3D, which is owned and operated by myself, Kralyn, and Danny. So that was the idea. We move it to this entity so that it can remain open source and not be bought out or controlled by anything. The whole idea is create a team to maintain and manage this to our best of our ability. Now, originally, it was going to be I handle the business side of things, and then Kralyn and Danning handle most of the engineering. But because of how much press that this printer got,
Oh no, I think we lost him, guys. I think we lost him. Well, I guess I could spoil the surprise and say that, well, I better
a
wait
few
and let
companies
Andrew.
and
There we go. He's back.
no.
You're
All
back.
right,
All
hello.
right.
Yeah, that was weird. I can still hear you.
So he got so much exposure. What happened?
So he got so much exposure that a bunch of companies were reaching out and started offering him positions. So the CEO of one company reached out and said, "Hey, I want you on my team." And Kralyn could not decline this amazing offer that he was offered. So he took it. And I don't blame him. Honestly, if that company came to me and said, "Hey, you can work for us," I'd be like, "Yeah, drop everything. Let's go." I have been asked, of course, not to share this company.
Yeah.
So that's the wonderful mystery. You guys can guess
So
what it might be.
I'll guess what we know is it's a 3D printing company of enough repute that it's a big, probably a big one or an exciting one. It's not Trunksy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
very
no, it's
exciting.
definitely a fun one.
And we
It
don't
is.
know, obviously, if the product that he's working on has come out yet.
No.
And
But because it is 3D print adjacent, the sad part of the story and the reason for his disappearance.
oh no, you froze again. We lost him, guys.
No.
Okay,
I
you're
still hear
back.
you.
You're
This
back.
is a different issue. I can still hear you whenever it's cutting out.
Odd. Okay, so
Indeed.
something, Jason. Yeah.
So Kralyn, when you're in the United States, it's very common, especially for high tech companies, to sign a non-disclosure agreement and a non-compete agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So for those outside the United States who aren't familiar with that, it's pretty much what it says. You're not allowed to disclose what you're working on, and you're not allowed to compete with the company that you're working for.
Mm.
So in Kralyn's position, he's not allowed to work directly on open source projects that are competing in some way, shape, or form.
Got
And
it.
that doesn't mean specifically, oh, Upsidedown printer or portable printer. That just means printer in this
Got
case.
it.
So as a result, he's currently in a, what's the word? He is a, oh man, I'm
Now you're freezing.
Consultant. So he's a consultant on the project still. So we still talk to him. We still tell him how everything's going. He's still part of it, but yeah, sadly, as a result, he's just a little pulled back. But this is still his passion project. He's very happy to see where it's going, and he's still helping guide the whole project as a whole.
That's very, very cool. And I imagine, although it's open source, the ultimate goal is for it to sustain itself commercially.
Yes. So we're kind of right now aiming for a very much Voron-like system with our team. Our team is very small right now, but The idea is we're working with LDO to release the official kit, which right now we're on version 3.2
Mm-hmm.
as our main version. And that's what we're aiming for release. The idea is hopefully whatever revenue we generate from this, we can put back into research and development of more different designs, more foldable printers, more portable printers. We don't really know yet.
Yeah.
We know that there's a lot of challenges with this current design, and we can't wait to overcome them.
That's very cool. Now that, I mean, I guess I've been trying to get Max Zolan on the show for a long time, and he keeps saying, I promise, but he's so busy. So I'm going to ask you the questions about, what does that mean to have it be like a Voron kind of arrangement with LDO? Like, I've never understood, and the way I understand it is that Voron is a trademark. So to call it a Voron kit, you need to have permission from the Voron team. You can produce it because it's open source, but you can't call it a Voron. Is it similar with you guys?
Yeah, so it's similar with us. We're a little bit more lenient. We still let people call it a Positron style printer.
Sure.
However, to use our logo, we do have a trademark on that, so you need approval to use the logo, which kind of is our stamp of approval on this is an official kit. So, for example, we actually do have a couple branches of our project. So there is the Positron LT, which they try to make it as easily printable and as easy to make as possible using really easy to get resources. It's a much, I think, easier printer to build, but it's much different at the same time. For example, it uses a lead screw instead of a belt for the Z-axis.
Right.
And there's also the Journey Maker, which takes a lot of inspiration from the LT as well as some inspiration of their own to make their kit. So there's a lot of different designs going into this, but the whole idea is that what we're doing is Positron's never going to directly sell the printer. It's just going to be through whoever wants to make it. They hopefully share, cut of their proceeds to us.
Yeah.
And that just helps us continue the project. So similar to how Voron does it with LDO, LDO is going to be selling their kits through their distributor network. So
Right.
you'll be able to buy them from, like, say, Fabrico or something, stuff like that. And Fabrico will be doing support for everything. So in a sense, we're trying to emulate Voron with all the ways that they've done their open source aspect of everything.
Yeah.
And we're very grateful that they've kind of laid out the roadmap for that.
Yeah, it's a very unusual business arrangement. And I think it would have only happened. I mean, the Voron project started out as a commercial project, and Max decided to move on. I don't know if people know the story. Hopefully one day he'll tell it on the podcast when he's not so busy.
Yeah.
But he decided to move on, and he was like, I did all this work, doing a Silicon Valley 3D printer startup. It didn't work out. I'll just open source the design, so at least someone can benefit from it. And then it took on a life of its own. He did a whole lecture about it at Smurf. And so I think it out of that kind of disappointment became this really cool business model where he was like, look, it's a sunk cost. Like, I'm just going to continue doing it because I love it, as I understand it. And the community has grown around it and thrived. And then, and only then, did the people come in with their commercial interests again, because it started as commercial interest. And that's so interesting, right? That it is literally a grassroots movement that was then only after the fact supported by people with the means to actually produce and market kits. It's very cool.
And we had something similar. So when we started and just released the GitHub, we had so many people in our Discord trying to source parts. One of my favorite stories about this is, as a community, we single-handedly caused a material shortage in the supply chain. So sinker mesh cables are only made by one company.
Yeah.
And we single-handedly ordered so much of it, or at least the community did, that they had it on back order. People were literally being called like, is this a scam? Like, we don't get orders for this like this much.
How many people have built these printers? I didn't realize that many people self-sourced.
So I don't actually know yet. We're working on a serialization system similar to Voron. I don't really know how we're going to approach that just yet. We're still working on the idea. But so I don't actually know exactly how many have built Positrons so far. but I
Right.
know there's definitely, I want to say a little over 100, maybe a little over 200 of the 3.0 models
Okay.
out there. And when you account for Journey Maker or LT, there's probably much more. Um, so I can't really say for certain how many is out there, but
Yeah.
it's becoming ubiquitous enough that you start seeing them at trade shows, which is pretty fun to see.
That's
Like
really
I
cool.
remember someone told me it was up at the Rocky Mountain Festival, and I'm like, huh, we weren't there.
Yeah, I saw one at Smurf
And
as
I was
well.
like, yeah, and I heard about that as well. I'm like, okay, that's crazy. That's really awesome to hear. I'm
It's
so
really
happy to
cool
see that.
considering the kits aren't out yet. It means someone really did a
Right.
lot of legwork.
Oh yeah. And we have small businesses like Journey Maker, that, or Voxelite rather, that are making the Journey Maker, and they are really trying to have this grassroots, like, get off the ground, get these kits going of their own
Yeah.
design. And we're huge supporters of that. We really love helping support small businesses, and we want these designs to become successful,
Yeah.
because you know rising tide lifts all boats. So
Totally.
we are really dedicated to trying to help everyone
Yeah.
that we can.
And from what I understood, people have accused me of like digging in people's pockets too much, but it's because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm very interested in business. I have a master's in business, right? So don't answer if you don't want, but I'm just curious. Like you made it sound as if uh, kicking back to the project is kind of a hope thing. It's not a requirement thing. But what's the ideal scenario if someone is out there, right? Like I'm in contact a lot with Physec, Cybor, all these companies that make Voron kits. Like if you were to just put it out there and I'll do your marketing for you, like what's an ideal scenario for you? Is it percent of revenue? Is it a fixed item? Like in a perfect world, because I don't want to ask you what I don't want to get into the actual deal with LDO, but like in a perfect world, what would that deal look like to support the
So
project?
we actually have a guideline on our website.
Oh, so you're very
So
transparent.
yes, no. So we have a verification process where we essentially, hey, they send us a machine, we test it, and if they send us parts for the machine, we test it, and we just try and make sure that it's at least as good as the original design,
Cool.
so that it can actually be functional. And we ask that people who are selling verified kits give us at least 8% of the profit.
Okay.
We don't ask for too much. We just want a
8% of the
tiny
profit.
amount.
That's not a lot.
No, it's really not. Because the way I was thinking of it is we don't want to discourage companies
Yeah.
from trying this. We don't want to discourage people from taking a gamble and seeing if this is successful.
Yeah.
So, just 8%, I felt like it's not too much, it's not too little. We are a very small team right now, so as we grow, that might increase. But the idea is, hey, at least cover the filament costs for our prototyping, or at least cover some hours of work. Right now my goal is just to pay for the servers I use to host the website and stuff like that.
Yeah. Wow.
um
That's really cool. And I love that you're
yeah,
transparent about it. And also, the parallel just came to me of Voron project being a commercial project. All that R&D work was kind of paid for by someone else, Max or Max's investors. I don't know if he had them. And in this case, you guys are lucky that this was paid for by students, right? Doing work that
yeah,
they had to do for their degree. So it's very fortunate. And I think we're all beneficiaries of the fact that a lot of the upfront R&D, years of work is already kind of paid for. And so
yeah,
now it's about growing the project, which you can do with, less.
yeah. And I have to really shout out LDO here. So we are such a very small team that is kind of across the globe right now. So right now the official team is myself and just a couple of my friends, and we're
Mhm.
not heavily engineer guys. So
Right.
like we kind of know what to do, but we're still learning ourselves and understanding more of what goes into designing a printer. And we're very grateful for the Positron LT team, as they have come in and they've helped us improve the design, helped us improve everything. And massive shout out to LDO, because they've been doing the same.
Right.
LDO has really taken this design into their own,
Yeah.
and they have suggested a lot of the improvements that we see on the current version 3.2.
Right.
So if it wasn't for Jason and the LDO team, I really don't know where this project would be right now, because
Yep.
without their support, we'd still be struggling figuring out how to make enough space for everything, how to compact everything down even
Right.
further.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, there are so many people haven't, how do I put this in a kind of politically correct way? People have not maybe in this space because of Bamboo Lab, it's different, but in general, people have not adapted their perceptions to the reality of how many and at what caliber engineers are coming out of engineering schools in China.
Yeah.
And it's like, if once you looked at the Japanese for really, really innovative electronics and stuff like that, now we're looking more and more and more at China. And the LDO team is a perfect example. As soon as I actually saw the Positron, I think it's 3.2. At then it might not have been in September in Shenzhen. I wasn't allowed to film it, nothing. But I was like, whoa, this is different than what I saw on YouTube. A lot of differences. And that's so cool. And LDO, to any company listening out there, be like LDO in terms of how you interface with the community, how you give back, how you treat content creators when your new products come out, all that kind of stuff. But they're just all around. I've never heard anyone have anything bad to say about LDO. Even their employees are like, I'm so lucky I work here.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure working with them. We've gone through a lot of challenges, as is bringing up a new production line. These drills or these holes weren't drilled, or things like that.
Yeah.
And that's just normal. We are the beta testers. We're taking on the quality assurance. But we're working really hard to make sure that this isn't missed when this goes to market or anything like that. And that's why I'm pretty confident, because LTO has a phenomenal track record with their kits. So I'm pretty certain everyone's going to be pretty happy with what comes out as the
I'm confident. And it's funny. I'll admit, I wasn't very interested in the Positron from the videos and stuff. I thought it was a passing curiosity. And then the war broke out here, and I had to leave all my 3D printers, and I kind of like picked up my family and went away until the rockets stopped falling in Tel Aviv, just for psychological reasons and stuff. Not a sad note. I don't want to go down a sad note. But then I kind of found myself like, I don't have a 3D printer here. There's a lot of stuff that I left at home that I would like things that I need to fix for my kids. So I kind of started begging Jason, right? Like, can I please be the first one? And that's when my interest kind of peaked. But then when I got the printer, I realized it is not a curiosity or a prototype or a proof of concept. Like, it's actually a serious printer. And I say that as someone who's built multiple Vorons, and I have, most of the printers coming out on the market. And I was like, no, this thing, it actually prints. Like, it prints, and it prints fast, and it prints well. I had some issues with my kit that are still being worked out, but like, if it executes on everything that the hardware should be able to, and those little issues that I had with thermistors and stuff like that, like, it's a serious printer. That was my big, whoa, takeaway. Like, no, this isn't a curiosity that you see at trade shows and go, wow, that's Upsidedown. It's like, no. And it's designed that way for a reason.
Yeah.
So,
we had some interesting difficulties with the design. I wish I had my original 3.0 kit, but I accidentally left it at my office.
The one that I have is a 3.0 or 3.2?
You have a 3.2.
Okay.
So, the original, we worked with Fadus to design a custom hot end for the printer. And originally, we decided on a cast molded system. So the filament path was actually perfectly curved for 90 degrees for, transition of the filament.
Yeah.
But that turned out to be a little bit too difficult for us to manufacture. So we went back to a milled system where you just essentially drill 2 holes and create a 90-degree angle.
Yeah.
Because in all honesty, once the filament's molten, it really doesn't care.
Right.
Once it's a liquid, it just does whatever.
Right.
And other like new trends in 3D printing, like ceramic heaters, have also helped us reduce the size. Because when we used the previous design, we had to use that large cylindrical heater. But now we're using a bamboo style heater that's so much more slim and easy to fit onto the hot end. So we're able to get the machine even further compact.
Right.
So all these innovations that come out over the years are what has really helped us, shrink down the entire thing.
Very, very cool. That's very, very cool. You're motivating me. I need to open it back up. I've just kept it in the briefcase and I take it with me places in case I'm gonna need it, but I need to take
Oh
it
yeah.
apart. I need to actually devote the time to take it apart. And Jason thinks that the issue that I had with the hot end was just seating of that heater cartridge. I have
Yes.
more of those heater cartridges, but it also might be that there just wasn't enough thermal paste, which makes sense.
So one thing we found, and this is just part of fixing things and the alphas in our design process, is if you ever have like those twist ties, just take off the plastic or the like paper shielding, just like twist it. The problem that we had in our very early units, which is going to be fixed when it comes to production, is the heating element was just not being pressed up against
That's what
the
he said.
hot
Yeah.
end as hot as or as tight as it needs to be. So I literally just took one of those twist ties and
Yeah.
took the little wire and just twisted it really tight. One of my friends, Coda, he bent the pieces a bit and just got it to fit really nicely.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm totally gonna do that. There are some really good questions in chat that I want to ask. First, where does the name
Okay.
Positron come from?
That is a great question. I wish I had an answer for. I presume it is because in atomic science, the positron is a very small element.
Got
And
it.
the whole idea is that this is compact and easy to fold.
Got it. Okay,
I
that
never
makes sense.
actually asked
Because I was
Kralyn,
gonna
but you
say
know what? I
Journey
think I
Maker.
will.
When you hear Journey Maker, you're like, oh, I know what this thing is. Positron, you
Yeah.
don't get it. Okay, that's a good question. By the way, guys, submit your questions because they're really, really good. Let's see. We asked that one. Cap Spam 3D, who is not spamming, is asking about the Positron kit being sold on AliExpress. I was shocked to see that. So there's a kit on AliExpress.
Yeah.
Apparently.
So
what's the
we have a
scuttlebutt?
little bit of a rocky relationship with Fsor,
Okay.
the ones that create that kit. So they've claimed to people who purchase it that they have been working with us. We've had no contact from them. There is a lot of problems with that kit. There's a lot of incorrect drilling. So we say it is good to get started, but unless you have the tools to fix a lot of the mistakes or are willing to go through that process, it may not be the best for everybody. So that's definitely be very cautious about it.
Got it. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Now, while we're on the topic of conflict and drama, Kokoni, the Kokoni printer, did they take inspiration? Was that a chaos theory where they figured it out at the same time? Are they in contact with you guys? Can you talk about that? These are hard questions. That's from Kenneth Tsang.
Jason actually is the one that brought that to my attention. I don't know where they got their idea. I don't know where they are in terms of progress. They've had no contact with us.
Okay. I mean, that's the thing, right, about open source is people are free to do what they want with it. If they modify it, they can,
It seems to be a take on the novelty of upside-down 3D printing.
Yeah.
Because there is a small novelty aspect to the upside-down printing.
Sure.
We do find that there is improved performance in overhangs.
Yeah.
But
I found the same.
We didn't design the printer to print upside down. We didn't do it for that reason.
Right.
The reason we ended up with upside down was because we wanted to fold the printer and to be able to do that reliably.
Right.
Yeah, in the center of gravity. In order to do that reliably, we just decided, well, if we put all the motion parts in the bottom,
right,
then that's going to make things a lot easier. Because I mean, there's been folding 3D printers that have been developed. Like I remember there was an Ender 3 modification where the whole gantry came down. But every time you put that up, you have to realign the gantry, you have to retest everything, recalibrate.
Right.
So we were like, that's not really good. So we came up with the system where it's just one screw and it's just one piece of metal and you just got to level your bed and that's it. You're good to go.
And I actually asked Jason when I tested, I was like, do I need to, because it's kind of annoying if I have to level the bed every single time. And he's like, it's not impossible to not have to level the bed. You just have to be very consistent in how you actually screw the bed on, because that's where it comes down to. It has nothing to do with the belts or anything. It's how exactly did you get the bed to sit? And after a
So
while, again, not every time, but after a while, I can now fold it, take it to the office, unfold it, and I don't even have to level the bed, which is pretty massive.
so for visual reference, I'm just going to take my bed off here real quick.
Yeah, sure.
So the nice thing with the Positron is that the way that it mounts is pretty simple. So you have your end connector up here,
Yep.
and this is how it attaches to the bed. And then you have your two little mounting points right here. So to level the bed, you really only need to measure 3 points because it's glass. It's going to be
Right.
a typically flat surface. So you essentially all you do is one time you do your bed mesh, and then you just calculate where your 3 points are, and that's it. So even if you were to do a full bed leveling, it's pretty quick. Personally, I set up my G code to just make sure where the bed is, just do a Z stop check, then print. No
Yeah.
problems there. And
Yeah.
I've had some pretty successful prints out of it. The one I have just for display is this Orca Slicer cube. And this is pretty accurate. I think I need to do just a little bit more tuning, but this screw piece just comes in and out seamlessly. I've now just lost it because I will get that later.
No worries. No worries. So, okay, I have many, many more questions. You can tell my camera's vibrating because my phone is ringing. I don't know who's calling me at this hour. What's coming down the pike for the project? As you said, you want to overcome some of the challenges. What are you excited about in the future as hopefully funds come in, as the team grows? What are some of the challenges you'd like to solve?
So the first thing I think we're going to focus on is just kind of doing getting the team back together and kind of establishing exactly what it is we want to do. We all have a ton of ideas. One of the biggest questions we ask ourselves is what makes the positron a positron? Is it the fact that it prints upside down? Is it the fact that it folds up and fits in a filament box? Or is it the fact that it's compact? So there's a bunch of these questions that we're still kind of figuring out. But all in all, it is pretty much agreed that we want to try and go a little bit bigger. So we don't know exactly what the size we want to go with yet, but we definitely wanted to try a bigger machine because that's going to allow us to do things like, for example, add a rubber scrubber so the nozzle can just scrub off anything that's fallen on it. That's definitely one thing that we encounter. Yeah.
Actually, can I ask? Okay, wait. Finish that question, and then I have my next question.
Sure. We want to test out, thicker belts to just try and see how the resonance frequency changes and see what we can get away with. How big can we get this without it being annoying? Because, hey, maybe next it's not a filament box, but maybe a briefcase or suitcase. Something that's not unreasonable. I mean, there's been, one of the first laptops is just a briefcase of a computer.
Right.
So maybe something that's easy enough to bring to a trade show that you don't necessarily need to have in checked baggage, but something that just fits that size. So you can get the maximum amount of print volume out of something that fits in your luggage.
Yep. That's very, very interesting. Okay, my question that I wanted to ask is it's pretty rare that I get to interview someone after I've done a completely unbiased review. Like normally when someone sends me printers, it's sponsors and there's financial interests involved, so I don't do a lot of reviews. This was a completely unbiased review. Tear it apart. Like what did I get right about your strategy or things that, I think need improvement, and where did I flub up? Like, what did you think of my review? Tell me brutally honestly. Because also this is an opportunity to correct something that I may have said wrong in the video. Like what parts were you like, shit, he didn't get that right?
Well, the first thing is I should probably rewatched it before the interview.
That's fine. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I mean, I can tell you right now, there's absolutely nothing that stands out as wrong in it.
Okay.
I think what actually stood out to me is you actually made suggestions that we are already planning, such as the scrubber for the nozzle. And I overall very much liked it. One of the fun things I like working with LDO is they're their own company, and they told us that they're going to be handing out the machine to influencers and other content creators. And I said, hey, I can't wait to see what comes of it. I
That's
never really
awesome.
ask for details on who's going to get it,
Yep.
so I like to be excited and surprised as well. So
Yep.
when I saw your video come to my feed, I was like, yes,
Oh,
someone
that's
got a
cool. You had no idea
positron,
it
and
was
I'm
coming.
excited. No, I didn't.
That's really fun.
Which
That's fun.
I mean, it's one of the things I asked Jason, like, hey, I trust you with what you're doing. I can't wait to be surprised and
I
enjoy
was
what
actually
comes out of it.
surprised too because, like I said, I twisted his arm and I totally played on the like, poor me, I can't make any content wall, and then I have to take my kids to their grandparents for 2 weeks in America. How am I going to make content? I hope the channel survives. Like I definitely I worked on his emotion, and then the printer just showed up. It was bright orange and it showed up. I was like, what? I was there's literally B-roll. I think I used some of it in the video where I unbox it and I'm just like, oh my god, you guys, it's a Positron. I was so excited. But I think one thing that LDO does really, really well, and I'll give credit as well to Bamboo Lab, is they're so confident in the product, they give it to you and they say nothing. Like, just give us brutally honest feedback, put it in the video. We don't need to see it first. Like, we'll deal with it fast enough that even if it's in the video, and then there is generally an inverse relationship between how much a company tries to manage what's going to come out from a content creator and how good the product is. Because if you're putting
Yeah.
out a product that's half baked, right? The engineers know. And so when a company sends me, we'll send it out, but first we want to make sure that you give us an opportunity to fix anything before the video comes out. We'd love to see the script, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, the printer's not that good. But with every LDO printer I've ever done, also the Cyborg printer, that was really, really good. The Cyborg CNC Voron kit, Bamboo Lab, anything they send out. There may be a long list of like, you can't publish this until this date, but there's never anything around. Hey, let us know if there are any kinks so we can guide you in the right direction. Now, to
Yeah.
be fair, they're also doing, in the case of Bamboo Lab, their software is already ready. In the case of Voron, Clipper's been around for a long time, and usually when I have problems with a printer, it's like, oh, the firmware's literally still being ironed out 3
Yeah.
months before you ship the printer. That's fair. But anyway, that's my good on you to LDO.
Yeah, and that's why we love working with them
Yep.
because I tried a little stint at being a bit of a YouTuber when shorts kind of became a new thing on the platform, but I just didn't really have enough time to dedicate to that. So I really love how LDO is just so unrestrictive in the feedback. And your feedback to our system was really, really important,
Oh,
and we
thanks, man.
appreciate any and all feedback from anybody that gets the printer.
It makes such a difference,
So
right?
it does. I mean, we have an Excel sheet of just like everything that everyone said, and we're working on every little piece as we go along to
That's
try
awesome.
and make
That's
this as
awesome.
best as we can.
And I
Yeah,
don't want to overplay our importance as content creators, because it's not about the content creators. It's about users, and particularly heavy users. The companies who are doing really, really well. I mean, like, okay, so Bamboo Lab, right? There was like some weird little things, tiny little things in the first units. And I think one of them was like, when Joel unboxed the first one, he made a mistake during the live stream and forgot to unscrew one of the screws. The next units that shipped out all had those red stickers on every single one of the screws, right? Or
yeah,
like even Creality now they've figured it out. Like they're not dumb, and they figured it out. So like Uncle Jesse on a live stream, door swings open. Now K1 shipping with a friction hinge and what's it called? Anti-shatter glass. So it's like, again, not overplaying that like we content creators are the reason for, no. But what I am saying is, like, when you get it in the hands of power users who are going to abuse it because, we're on a firm deadline and we want to test all the filaments and we're going to run it, for 48 hours straight the day we get it. And then you listen, right? It's like you've outsourced your maybe not your quality control department, but you've outsourced your kind of beta testing department.
so the way I see it is this: we only have, I want to say, 20 units of testing,
Yep.
and we can't afford to send out a new unit every time we need to test something different. Like, for example, and this is just natural. We're or some of the things. It's like, oh, I don't have the piece for this, or something this didn't arrive. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen again the next one. And we can only, our sample size is only so big,
Right.
so we can't account for everything. And one of the other things I've started noticing is, especially with some of the other people that we give the printer to who are newer to building printers like this, what is common sense for me when designing or building a printer is not necessarily common sense to everyone else.
Yep.
So we need to take that feedback. Like, for example, when I was putting together Hot End, I already really knew what I was doing. I already knew where to put everything and how to put everything together. But someone else may be like, hey, it doesn't say to use this screw. What do I do with this?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, of course, we know to use this. This person doesn't. So
Yep.
we're taking into account all that. And getting it into the hands of content creators just helps expand that entire process. Because then it's like, okay, please use this as much as possible, because this is your job. For us, my main job is IT. So I work for an IT company. As much as I would love this printer to be my job, it's not. So I only get maybe a couple hours a day to test with it. And when you think
I spend
about 3D
all
printing,
day breaking 3D printers.
Yeah. And when you think about 3D printing, a couple hours, well, that might be just a couple of these.
Sure.
I'm not going to be able to see every single little flaw that we run into on every single kit. So once we expand the availability to it, we're going to obviously get a lot more feedback, and we're going to continue working on this.
Right.
We're just like Voron, we're going to keep revising, keep adding on, keep fixing whatever we find, because once this gets in the hand of everybody, we're going to have so many more people to give feedback on, and it's going to be really awesome. We're excited for it.
That's awesome. I just realized I do need to thank this episode's sponsor, and then we'll come back for more questions. You guys guessed it. You know who it is. It is PCBWay, which I will pull up here. So PCBWay, let me make sure I'm not muted because I always mute myself. There we go. All right. PCBWay, as you guys hopefully know, is your one-stop shop for all the things. We've been talking a lot about prototyping and how hard and expensive that can be. Well, whether it's CNC machining or PCBs or even injection molding, metal 3D printing, industrial grade 3D printing, really anything you need, PCBWay can make it for you, and they can do it in quantities of 1 to 10,000. Their services are not only extremely affordable, but also, and I find this to be the hidden gem of their service, if you will, is if you're not a trained and qualified engineer, they'll have a trained and qualified engineer look over everything that you upload. So I recently I'm working on some designs for a project, and I uploaded some stuff, and they wrote back, and they're like, the engineer doesn't think that this tolerance is going to work well for this technology. We recommend you do this way. And I was like, so you mean to tell me that for the price of getting this thing manufactured, I also got a trained engineer for 10 minutes to just look at my design and see what I'm trying to achieve? So anyway, PCBWay is awesome. There's a link in the description that gets you $5 off your first order, no matter what it is for your next project, even if you don't need to do PCBs. They're awesome. I have some CNC parts on order from PCBWay, and thank you to PCBWay. In the meantime, while you guys order those parts, Anthony, I want to ask, what 3D printers are you using besides obviously a Positron? I think I see an X1 Carbon in the back.
Yes. So I got my X1 Carbon back there. I have had a journey when it comes to 3D printers. So my first two 3D printers were actually an Ender 3 V2 and a Kralyn CR30. So I had the belt printer.
Belt printer, okay.
And classic case of printer breaks, you get another printer to fix it. Got to the point where I had like 10 printers.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. I think my total repertoire is I've had the FL Sun Super Racer, the V400. I still have the V400, but I got rid of the Super Racer.
Okay.
I have obviously the Bamboo Labs X1. see. I also have the A1.
Mhm.
I've had an Idea Maker. I've had Creality Ender 3 S1, as well as two Ender 2 Pros,
Mhm.
and what else? I've
But
had the
no
SaintSmart Infinity
Vorons.
20. Getting there. LDO did provide me a 2.4 that
Oh,
has
cool.
been my project printer for a while.
I was
It's
gonna say,
currently
has
not
it been
working,
built?
but it's just right here off to the side.
Okay. Work in
Currently working on
progress.
giving it one of those CNC taps.
Ah, so it's running.
It was,
It
but now
was.
the whole hot end's apart.
Yeah, that's at least one of my Vorons is always in pieces. Always.
Yeah,
But it's because Vorons are a platform for tinkering with 3D printers. Let's be honest. Like someone
absolutely.
just asked in the chat, I'm looking for a workhorse printer that I can put a ton of hours on, right? Like just a tank. And for a second, I wanted to be like, a Voron is a tank of a 3D printer. But you're always going to be upgrading it. It's always going to be, in pieces, and you're going to be taking it apart. Not because it's unreliable, but because that's what you do with a Voron. That's what you do with a hot rod. So
So,
that's really cool.
not
I want to
sponsored.
ask then, this is going to be a hard question for you, right? Because you produce
Okay.
3D printers. What is your favorite 3D printer? The one that you love the most? We're not going to judge if it's not a Positron. And what's the
So,
printer? Sorry, go ahead and answer that first.
yeah. So my go-to, and this is just as a consumer and as someone who's doing rapid prototyping. My go-to is actually the Bamboo,
Yep.
and that is because I got to give them credit. It is a closed source system, but the way that they have designed it does require very minimum maintenance when in
Mm-hmm.
comparison to a bunch of others.
Right.
My mother actually got really heavy into designing, or not designing, but into doing laser engraving, and so she bought a ton of different laser engravers, returned most of them,
Yep.
and I think it's the same situation on both sides. It is, if you buy cheap, then you're going to be fixing it sooner or later. She had a really cheap Creality laser engraver, and eventually I had to start fixing it because, of course, it's somewhat synonymous with 3D printers. But once
Yep.
she returned that and invested in one that was more closed source and just kind of overall better, she hasn't really had much problems with that one. And
Cool.
it is kind of the, you get what you pay for, and
Sure.
X1C has just been one heck of a workforce. It's also my only enclosed printer, so I
Okay.
printed all my ASA parts for the Positron on it. So
That's cool.
yeah,
That's cool. I love my X1C. It's not the printer I love the most because that is a tool. It's a tool, like,
yeah,
although to be fair, I love my Makita, drills and impact drivers, but it's a tool, right? It's not my baby. I love
yeah.
my Vorons way more, and it's directly proportional to how much time I put into building them. So I did a build competition with 2 subscribers, and basically I was not involved in building the Cyborg one, so I love it less than the LDO version, because the LDO I finished by myself, right? And so
Yeah.
I think that's like an interesting, it's kind of, it's like a hot rod versus a car that you buy. Kind of a different
Yeah, I
different
mean, the
story.
Positron right now, it's definitely that printer I love the most because it's the one I've put the most time into, and
Yep.
I've really put a lot of work into. Like there's just a bunch of little things that I did on this printer that are kind of uniquely me. Not only the fact that it's blue. Here, I'll actually hold mine up so people
Yeah,
can see
let's
it.
see it. We haven't seen it.
So this is mine.
Hey, little
As you can see,
buddy.
I have a few holes because I
I see
haven't
that.
glued stuff in this yet because I'm constantly changing things. Um, but I went with ASA on my printer, so
Yeah,
I can take it outside and go all over the
beautiful.
place. And one of the things that we did as beta testers, so in our first kits, we got little nameplates with laser engraving on it.
Cool.
So it says my name on there, or it says Nomad's Galaxy rather. And obviously we transported that from the previous beta kit to the new one because we're just making it kind of our own thing.
That's very cool.
I may swap out some of the pieces with like translucent PLA or something like that, or translucent something,
Yep.
um, just for fun, just to kind
Because
of
you
see
can.
more of the insides.
Yeah, we didn't
Yeah,
talk much about the whole build experience because LDO sent mine. That was another shocker. They sent it fully built. which I'm appreciative because I have a family. But how much time does it take to build one of these?
So I've seen people build it. So with the test kits that we have, so the kits that we received, that me and my team received, were in pieces. We did not get fully assembled kits. We got fully assembled 3.0 kits. We did not get fully assembled 3.2 kits. And this is because we wanted to actually test the guides. So the guides are pretty good. They're, what LDO is good with when it comes to their kits.
Yep.
So I am still fairly new when it comes to building printers. I spent a week building mine. Now that is in between, I don't have the part for this and whatnot. So I want to say, if you had an entire day to build this, you would probably be able to do it in one day. So
No
probably
way.
12 hours, maybe.
Wow.
Now, mind you, I'm fairly new to the whole building a printer thing, so I'm probably severely underestimating that. But once I got into the group,
Underestimating or over? You mean it would take a
I'm
lot
probably
longer?
underestimating the amount of time, so it might take longer.
Yeah, I was gonna say 12 hours is insane. A Voron, whether it's a V0 or 2.4, I mean, it's 40 hours. 40 hours to get it running, and to get it humming 50.
So I think the reason this is a lot easier. So one of the things that took me a while, like I spent a whole day just doing the wiring on my Voron.
Yeah.
With the Positron, there's not much wiring.
Right. It's all just there.
So LDO has made a custom board for this. I can't really show or share anything about it too much.
Yeah.
But I only have to do 2 wires for the power since
And
it's using DC power.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's CAN bus, and then just plug in the motors. No crimping or anything needed.
Yeah,
it was
wow.
pretty quick.
I spent so long on wiring, and like the flying gantry on the 2.4, that was like 2 days of work.
Yeah, I think the most complicated part of this printer, and I'm glad it took off the bed so you can see it, is the belts for the XY motion.
Yeah.
And in comparison to the synchromesh cables that we used before, so the synchromesh had a tendency to curl because of the way it was made.
Yeah.
So whenever we had instances where we were using plastic idlers, they would melt because it's a 3D printer. And, being under melted plastic, it's not great for plastic.
Yeah.
So when that would happen, you would just have an explosion of this cable. And it would be a mess to have to redo. It was a nightmare. Especially since we had to crimp it down onto the hot end.
Yeah.
But with the belt, it took me to actually run the belt and get it tensioned. I want to say maybe 45 minutes, less maybe, because it's just one run. I'm not like tensioning for like on my 2.4.
Right.
You have to tension 4 belts for the
5.
Just the Z motion.
Just the Z motion. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, on just the Z motion. But with this, it's 1 for the Z motor and it's 1 for XY. It's just 1.
Yeah, that's true.
So once you get the tension done on just one of these, you're pretty much halfway done your kinematics.
It's so clever how it's done. I never thought about that. It's 1 belt for all the XY motion.
I mean, when you look at other XY machines, even the Bamboo, you can get away with just 1 belt if you route it correctly. And that's typically what's limiting to how those are designed, because in order to do it with 1 belt, you have to have them crisscross. Yes. You have to have them kind of just go over one another at different planes, which is what we do on the Positron. So that's why we're able to get away with using 1 belt for the XY.
Right.
But if you look at an XY machine, the belt that's attached to the print head, it moves in unison. It doesn't like go like this. Once it gets outside of the actual print head onto other parts, yeah, sure, it'll move slightly independently to get that XY motion. But
yeah,
on the print head itself, it's just 1 mechanical piece.
Interesting. Okay, more questions coming in from the peanut gallery here. Capspam wants to know, do we have any idea when it's going to actually be released?
We are hoping for spring release. Right now, we're aiming for April. Now, in the community, I am the king of soon trademark.
Yeah.
Because we said this essentially last year as well. But then we were like, you know what, this isn't quite ready, and we're not quite happy with the design, so we pushed it back for a whole year to refine everything, and we made the 3.2 as a result. We are pretty happy with what we have now, and we're not going to be doing any more insane renovations to this machine. So right now we're pretty certain on spring release, which is March. That might be next month. It may be May. That's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for April, but I'm not promising anything just yet.
That's really cool. Yeah, Jason had told me aiming for April. I didn't know if that had changed. People want to know, is there any possibility in the future of different build plate options, or is the glass kind of a really, really important part of what makes a positron a positron?
So that is one of the great things that I say is up to the end user. Let me step up for a second. I have one of our old beds that we used for testing.
Yeah, let's see.
Oh, actually,
now we can judge you for how messy your office is.
Yes, you can.
I mean, I'm one to talk.
Right. Where is it?
Got more questions coming in here. Matthew says, if it's in April, I'm going to get it.
So I can't find the other heat bed that I had, which had massive blocks going up and down of
I remember that.
Kapton tape. Not Kapton tape, just
wire.
Defrost wire. So, but this is the previous iteration of the 3.0, which used magnetic connector.
Yep.
Now, some of our testers had short circuits when using this, and called sparks. That wasn't fun. So we said, this isn't working, and we threw it out. So we went with our edge connector, which is much better. Now, as someone who uses 3D printers, we all know the bed is consumable at some point of time.
Yeah.
So that's why what's nice about these is that they are easy to replace. They slide out and slide in.
I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, glass, I guess, even glass will be consumable.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to get scratched up, especially if you're taking this on the go. It's kind of inevitability. But
it's not expensive. It's not even a special kind of, right? It's like an off-the-shelf kind of deal.
Yeah, but what we do is there's ITO coating.
Yep.
Excuse me, sorry. There's an ITO coating on the back, which is how the whole heat bed heats up. So, with that, what's nice about these, if you have multiple, you can treat this like, a flexible, not like a flexible bed. Don't try to bend it. But you can just take it off with the print still on it and let that cool down off to the side, put another bed on and let it go.
Right.
So you can just take this off, let it sit, let it cool, and keep on printing.
But I guess there's kind of no option. There's no world in which we see like textured plates for a positron, I think is where his question was going.
So that is, so actually one of the things that we tried, or I tried personally, I actually put PEI on one of my build plates.
Interesting.
You can get PEI sheets that are just adhesive sheets. And so I cut one down to fit on the build plate because I was actually having some issues with the bed sensor that we had at the time, which we designed a little cover to improve its performance. And the ITO coating that we're using now blocks IR, so it should work better.
I was wondering how that worked.
Don't quote me on the whole blocks IR thing. I do not have an IR camera, so I cannot fully confirm it.
No, but it's an IR sensor, and I couldn't figure out how the hell it worked.
Yeah.
Okay, now I get it.
But it is able to detect the bed, and
Quite
it is able to figure all that out. And so I was testing with PEI because we were just seeing what is affecting the level sensing. And it is absolutely possible to make a bed that has magnetic sheets. Like that is 100% something that can be done. The downside to it is you lose the ability to see your first layer through the glass.
Right.
Which
it's kind of
Jason
important.
and we think it's a really important part of the positron because, when the printer's upside down, it's really, you're not going to be like, how's my first layer doing? Exactly. It's much easier to just look at it, see that you're getting good adhesion, and run off. And this is probably the one printer where mid-print on the first layer, I've confident been able to go, let me just adjust that and walk away.
Yep.
Because in like an Ender 3, for example, you're looking at it and you're like, I don't know, is that sticking good? I guess I'll find out. But with
You'll
this,
find
you
out.
actually can see just how much it sticks to the plate and whether or not it's peeling off. So you can make immediate decisions on that first layer,
Yep.
before any other printer.
So my
It's
Vorons
so
are
much more
tuned like that,
obvious.
but I hear you and I agree with you. I think like once you know a machine as intimately as any machine that you build, it's like I know exactly what it's gonna, I know exactly how much bed adhesion is enough bed adhesion. But I hear you, and on the Positron, you have that level of like insight that's
Yeah.
otherworldly.
It's so weird
Enclosed
because, you
positron,
don't
by
really
the
think about
way.
it.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, but someone just asked,
No, go
and
ahead.
they're right. Enclosed positron, because I think if we really want to maximize the potential of this thing, it's got to be able to print ABS, ASA, nylons, like things that you would want on the battlefield, kind of thing.
So that's something that we're thinking about in like future versions. Like we definitely want to allow for higher temps to be printed. This printer, the limiting factor of the 3.2 right now is actually its power supply. That's the limiting factor. It uses the similar heating component to the bamboo, so it could absolutely print ABS if you wanted it to.
Oh yeah.
You shouldn't because it's opened,
Right.
but the whole thing is power consumption right now. So
Right. And
what
people should know
likely
at
is
home,
going to
it
happen?
uses an external to get that weight. It uses an external power supply like your laptop.
Yeah. So a lot of so we're definitely looking in ways to enclose it. Right now, you
Yeah.
could easily just put it in a acrylic box or something like that, similar to what you'd get for enclosing like an Ender or something.
Yeah.
And that would work just fine. But we're definitely looking into ways of somehow enclosing it in just the crazy ideas that we're going to have for the next iteration. We are
Yeah.
literally going, what's the craziest things that we can think of, and how can we make it possible?
Well, and you guys seem to be all about collaboration. I should connect you to Peter Solomon over at Wham Bam, because they have the mutant box, I think it's called, or
Yeah.
what the box thing, and I think that's very clever because it zips, right? So it can collapse down, and it could theoretically, you're talking about a suitcase 3D printer. For a bigger iteration, it could theoretically go. It could be right because it's soft. It could be in place of the foam that is currently protecting. I mean, this box is
The way
twice
that
as big
this
as the printer.
works.
Imagine if the
Give me a second
enclosure
to-
was the packaging.
So give me a second to just screw this back on here.
Sure.
But in technicality, if you are an expert with origami, you could absolutely design some form of flexible enclosure that attaches to the base here and has folds and then attaches to these arms so that as it goes up and down, like an accordion, it moves.
Yeah,
That is something
that's
that could
true.
easily be done.
I was thinking even simpler than that, right? Because the Wham Bam box it's kind of like it's like delivery drivers who like deliver your pizza or whatever. That's like a
I actually
soft
have
kind of like a foamy thing, but
I
it's
have
hard
one of
enough.
those enclosures just behind my computer here.
Ah, okay.
Because when we were first testing this, I'm like, this is a bit of a fire hazard. Let me put it in a box.
Right. That makes sense. But it would be,
I mean, when you're
I think
prototyping printers, it's like
the clutch there would be if you could use a material, because again, we're wasting so much space on the foam that's protecting the printer in the case. And if that foam, just replace the entire bottom layer and make it an enclosure, you're killing two birds with one stone.
yeah, I mean that's possible. I mean, the nice thing about the Pelican case is that was just kind of that was a cool factor we wanted
Oh
to
god,
go
yeah.
with.
I told Jason, I was like,
When I
you
first,
have to sell this with the printer.
oh yeah,
It's so freaking
and
cool.
so far,
Hold on,
that's the
let
idea.
me show it to people.
Yeah.
I mean, I mainly wanted the printer for the case. Come on, look at that.
Right. Yeah,
But
no,
it's big.
the Pelican
It's
case
very
has a
big
major
compared to
cool
the
factor.
printer.
Yeah.
I'll open it.
Obviously, that's not a filament box.
No.
And anyone will tell you that's not a filament box. The printer does still fit in a larger size filament box.
It does, but the majority of this, like I said, is foam. The vast majority. Here, let me full screen it. the vast majority of the space taken up here is foam. You know,
Yeah.
and the power supply takes up a lot of space.
Yeah. But yeah, no, there absolutely could be a way that we design it so that while still fitting in a container like that, it is
It's
technically
cool, man.
enclosed.
It is cool. I really got to put some more hours on this. I'm going to take it with me to my in-laws tomorrow. Get some hours on this printer.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to do with it is so as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I am an IT guy. So I work for a company that manages a bunch of different companies and their IT side of the business. So there's a lot of times where I'm going to go on site and we're recabling an entire server rack. So what's the one thing that everyone who builds a computer knows that you need to manage your cables? You need cable cones, you need cable ties,
Right.
you need all of this stuff. And we could order those, we could get those, but there's always the chance of something happening where you just don't have enough or you don't have enough on hand.
Right.
So if I go to re-rack a server, I can easily bring this thing. And if I realize, I want to route the cables this way, I can easily just put this up in a corner while I'm doing the other work and have it start printing out whatever parts I need for the job. And so
cool.
With a tiny little backpack, I have my own little fabrication site to build whatever I need to continue working on making this server rack as nice as possible.
That's so cool. That's so rad. What's the last thing you printed, Anthony?
In general?
Yeah.
Actually, this.
It's gonna be a good one. Wow, that room is bigger than I thought. You just like went off into the abyss. Oh, cool. It's a moon? No, basketball.
Yeah. No, it's a moon.
I've got one of those up here, and it has a Bitcoin logo etched out of it because Bitcoin to the moon, you know? And have you put a light under it? You can get these like LED plates
actually,
that you put under.
So what you just saw me take it off of is one of those workshop lights, one of those like what is it called? One of those architect lights. Okay. So it's the one that like moves and stuff. I just had it hanging on there. I tried to make it visible for the stream here, but
your background's so blurry. I barely could tell if the next one's seeing the back.
Well, I do have a small blur on there to hide some of the mess.
Yeah. I did the same thing. Well, we're coming up on time here. I do want to give you the opportunity to let folks know where they can reach out to you, how they can support you, if they want to contact you, learn more. I mean, obviously the kits will hopefully be available for sale soon, but how can people reach out and learn more?
So before I answer that, I want to answer one question I saw in the chat.
Yeah.
This is borosilicate. So this is, I believe this is the same stuff they use in lab equipment. So this is pretty durable. So don't throw it around, but it can definitely take a beating.
Yeah, I haven't been able to scratch it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But yeah, in terms of following us, we have presence on Twitter, we have presence on Instagram. I think the best way is we have a newsletter on our website. So go to Positron3D.com. You can sign up for the newsletter there. We will post news stories as well, and try to keep everyone up to date. If you want to try and source parts your own, we actually have a part of our website dedicated to only manufacturers that make stuff for us. Mm-hmm. And so you can actually find not all the parts, but most of the parts that are verified are on our website.
Oh, wow. That's cool. So people actually don't even have to wait if they don't want to.
Well, so the 3.2 designs are not currently available yet. We're going to release them along with the printer. But if you want to make a 3.0, which obviously we're going to recommend wait just a little bit because 3.2 is so much nicer and so much easier to work with.
Yeah.
You can still get some replacement parts and whatnot.
Very, very cool. And then how are people going to know when this printer is available? Besides the fact that I'm going to be singing it from the rooftops, hopefully.
Again, just our social media channels as well as our newsletter.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to it.
We also do have a Discord server, and we'll be announcing it there too.
Ah, okay, that's good to know. Yeah, you got to have a Discord server if you're in the 3D printing community.
Yep. I'm extremely active on Discord, and I'm also in yours as well. So if any of your viewers have any questions, I'll be absolutely happy to answer them.
Awesome. Anthony, thanks so much for coming on and for everything that you do for the 3D printing community. It was really, really fun to hear the story behind it and just meet some of the faces behind this mystery project, right? So
It was an
I
absolute
hope you'll
pleasure
come back
being
and
on here.
update us in a year when the thing's a smashing success.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you for having me.
All right, my friend. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infill Podcast. For show notes or links to anything mentioned in today's episode, visit thenextlayer.com. If you enjoyed the episode, please don't forget to leave us a review wherever you're listening, or click the like button to let us know, and consider subscribing to The Next Layer on YouTube so you can tune in live and participate in the next conversation. We'll see you on the next layer.